Welcome back to another show. Tonight we are very excited to have Saorla Rodgers on. And we're going to be getting to know you and your story and all the exciting things you have been up to, because you have been up to a few things lately.
Yeah, Seen and Heard was the most recent thing. Me and my creative partner, Maria Cunningham, we did a show called Porno. It's like a clown comedy theater little like mixed bag of a show. We were really proud of it.
Just to get us started, to take us right back to the very beginning, how did you get started in the arts?
So I started in dance. I was put in ballet from when I was 3 years old. I think that's like a lot of parents' first port of call if they have especially like a daughter who has a lot of energy and probably too much for just around the house. Stayed with dance for a really long time, did a lot of musicals when I was a kid, and then did drama lessons, really enjoyed those when I was like 17, doing the Leaving Cert. COVID happened and I was like, okay, I think I want to go and study dance. So I went to the College of Dance in Dublin for a year, which was like a great experience. And definitely, I think it was a great thing for me to have at that age, because I never felt like I was really good at much in school, like any of the academic stuff. So having something that I was able to be like, that's my thing and I'm good at that, I think was really important. Even when I was at the College of Dance, I think I kind of knew that I wanted to pursue other things in the arts. I had started writing a lot during COVID. I felt this real instinct to try acting. So then I went to the Gaiety School in Dublin and did the 2-year course there. Since then, I've just been doing a lot more writing, doing bits of acting here and there. That's my journey.
Was the College of Dance online at that point, or did you get to go into the studios?
That was very much back and forth for that whole year. We would have a couple months online and then we get like a month back in, because I'm sure you remember as well, like things were very up in the air and very changeable. I'd say we had about like half of the year in the studio. No, not even, probably more. But we were dancing with masks on for a lot of that time.
You said that you were doing a lot of writing in COVID. Was that something that kind of just started out of kind of finding a way to cope with being in lockdown and cooped up? Or was it something that started earlier?
It definitely, like, the seeds of it had sort of started earlier. Remember, for like months, when I was, I think, maybe about 15 or 16, I just had this idea of writing a TV show. I got really into it. I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. Just had so much fun with it. And then I think when lockdown happened, it was like all my kind of other creative things were less accessible. It's one of the things I love the most about writing, is that it's so accessible. Like, you do not need any money, or you don't even really need to get out of bed. I mean, you probably should. I think that just really pushed me to keep doing it and to get better at it.
How was your audition process for the College Dance during lockdown and COVID?
I think I auditioned in like February of 2020. So it was like maybe about a month before lockdown. So I had a normal audition. But then the following year I was auditioning for the Gaiety School of Acting. That was a self-tape and a Zoom audition for them. That process is wild. I don't even know what's like harder to do over Zoom, acting or dancing. But yeah, that process is interesting. The acting industry, I feel like, had a real shift from what I've heard. I think self-tapes and auditions over Zoom are pretty standard now, whereas before that would have been way less of a thing.
Were you given any tools or helpful tips to create your self-tapes, or was this a very new experience for you? Had you ever done a self-tape before these auditions?
No, I was living in Waterford at the time. I didn't know anyone else who wanted to be a dancer or an actor or anything. Of course, there are lots of people who had those ambitions in Waterford, but I think it was just people that I knew at the time, and also being very isolated, that literally on Google being like, how do you act? Like, how do you prepare a monologue? How do you audition for a drama school? I would spend hours on YouTube just combing through these videos of like my experience auditioning for drama school and this and that. Without internet and having that resource, I wouldn't have had any clue what to do. I'm still like, how did I get in? I knew absolutely nothing. I'm so glad that they were able to see something in me.
Having done auditions in person and online, do you prefer one or the other?
I feel like it goes back and forth. You can kind of do different things with both of them. They both have pros and cons, but I think in person, I think I'd prefer that because the main thing with the self-tape, you are restricted within this box. If you're then going and filming a TV show, you have to like stay within the confines of the camera lens. So in a way, it's more accurate to how filming on set is, in that there are these restrictions. But for an audition, I suppose you'd ideally want to be like, this is everything that I can do, and I can embody this character in this way, and you can sort of follow your instinct to move wherever, and then the like casting director can sort of use their imagination to be like, okay, and what would this look like if it's much smaller on a screen. So yeah, I think it's a little more restrictive doing the self tapes.
You went to the Gaiety School of Acting after going to the College of Dance. How did you find training there?
Yeah, I was 18. A lot of people in my year were older than me. I remember a lot of people being like, oh my God, you're so young. I can't believe you're here. And at the time, I was like, well, what else would I be doing? But now looking back, I'm like, oh my God, I was so young. I was like a baby and I knew nothing. I think there's kind of benefits to that in that you can be maybe more of a sponge, but then also maybe I'd be a bit more receptive or something if I started training now. I really enjoyed the training there, and if I could go back and maybe wait a little bit longer, maybe there's an argument there, but then I wouldn't have met the amazing people that I met there. Like Maria, my co-writer of Porno. Like, I don't know if we would have connected in that way if I hadn't gone at the time. Things, I guess, happen for a reason.
Was your training in the Gaiety School of Acting affected by COVID? Were restrictions still going on there, or did you have a normal in-studio training?
Yeah, it was pretty normal. I don't think it was disrupted too much. Yeah, I think we were pretty lucky that the worst of it had passed at that stage.
When you were coming up to graduation, or maybe before you even went in, did you have a plan for after as to what direction you were going to go in? What am I going to do? Did you have like that plan?
Well, I think acting school, there's a real, I don't know, elephant in the room, I guess, towards coming up to graduation. And I suppose like a lot of arts colleges and courses, are people gonna get agents, or like which agents do people want to pursue or whatever. I think I like felt that a bit. And obviously coming to the end of acting training, wanting to get stuck in that way. But the Gaiety schools puts a lot of emphasis on theater making and creating your own work. So I think after like 2 years of acting, was just really excited to get into some writing and some making. I knew I wanted to apply for Seen and Heard that year and keep, yeah, applying for more writing opportunities, because I felt like I was a bit out of practice at creating work. What am I trying to say? Not just within a college sense where you're just sort of throwing things at and you can try a new idea every day. I was sort of like, I'd love to create a piece of work that I can really see a future with it. So that was definitely a big part of my plans leaving the Gaiety School.
When you graduated to when you had your show on the Seen and Heard Festival, how long was that?
So I think that would have been about 2 years.
And were you working on that show during that time, or were you doing other projects?
So I actually did Seen and Heard the year I came out of college, and then I did it again this past year with Porno. The first year I came out of college, I did a solo show called Vultureland. That was theatre comedy, not so much involving clown. I think I was just starting to discover my love for like clowning and that side of comedy. So Vultureland was much more comedic theatre. It was a show about the housing crisis, about vulture funds, definitely inspired by the events going on in Ireland and in Dublin especially. But that was the first show where I sort of experimented with audience interaction. I had been doing like comedy gigs pretty regularly after I left college. It was something that I know I've got to try this eventually. I really wanted to, but I had this fear about it, especially going from an acting background where you've got a script, you know what your next step is the whole time. It really felt like stepping off a cliff into the unknown. So I that was the first place where I tried that out, and I loved it so much. I found just like so much joy in talking to an audience in that way, and found out that I really believe audiences are funnier than any comedian. Like the most random person that you talk to in an audience is going to be 10 times more hilarious than the person on stage. And then doing Porno the next year with Maria. Porno was originally Maria's project that she had been developing by herself for a while. She brought me on after she got into Seen and Heard to collaborate on it with her and devise it. The audience interaction is like the heart of that show. So just looking back on that whole progression, it's so nice. I discovered something that I loved the first year of doing Seen and Heard, and then the next year I came back and was able to really dive into it and show what I'd learned over the past year.
That's amazingly fast. You were just out of college and you were doing Seen and Heard. That's amazing. And I have to ask, do you have a creative process?
For Vultureland, it was much more of a playwriting process, kind of sitting down with a laptop, writing jokes, writing characters, much more, I guess, traditional approach to like playwriting. But then also I was able to use like various comedy nights and gigs that I was doing to test out the characters and test out material. It's something that is so important to comedy, is testing things, because you can be so sure that a joke is really funny and then it just never works and you just have to axe it, because even if you find it so funny, it's a really disappointing thing sometimes. And especially working on Porno with Maria, then you get into a kind of thing where you're working with this other person and you have this rapport and you have this like comedic sort of sensibility between the two of you, that certain things will just make you die laughing. And you're like, oh my God, this bit is hilarious. We're putting this in the show. We're putting this in this act that we're doing for this gig, just to be on stage and deliver this thing to the audience and get nothing back. I think that's quite nice when you have someone else there, because you can almost laugh at that as well, of like, I can't believe we thought that was so funny and literally no one laughed at it. Sometimes you could just be so off the mark. But yeah, like the process for Porno was way different working with someone else. I find it a little easier. Obviously having someone to bounce ideas off of, that's like really helpful when you're doing comedy, of course, because you can sort of pitch something or suggest this joke, and sometimes you can really make each other laugh and it doesn't translate. But if the thing that you are suggesting doesn't even make your collaborator laugh, then that's when you probably are like, okay, that one's probably just for me.
Where does the inspiration to do comedy as part of your work come from?
I think I've always like had this real fascination with it. I was really into Monty Python since I was a kid and got really into like a lot of British shows and sitcoms, and yeah, I think I always wanted to write something like that, wanted to do sketches and do improv and do all that stuff, even with working like in non-comedic forms. I think that that comes through. Someone was saying it to me, it might have been Maria, but we were talking about comedic plays and dramatic plays and the differences. Maria was saying that the dramas that she likes are the ones that are still funny. I really agree with that. What makes a good drama is something that does have that sense of humor to it as well, because real life is pretty funny sometimes, and people make jokes and they laugh and they do things that are pretty ridiculous and funny. I love when I see comedy like incorporated into other things, like even dance or like any kind of theater that could potentially be like very serious and weighty. I love when comedy gets brought into stuff like that as well, because I don't think that it um, undercuts any serious message or heavy topic. I think that it really has the power to uplift those things and put the audience at ease, so they're more receptive to like darker stuff sometimes.
When it came to creating your own work and putting it on stage, how did you find that experience? How was the transition of maybe doing that in college and doing that then in the real world?
I think the beauty of being encouraged to make your own work in college is that you can really start that process of experimenting before you've even entered the world. So I think a lot of that's like a lot thing. I think it's pretty common in general for people to create a piece of work that is inspired or had its origins in some piece that they did in college. Even Porno was originally the seed of that was another piece that Maria had done when we were in college together, and then had this real evolution over the years. But I honestly think that having that time to just throw ideas around in like a really safe place, like a college or a course where everyone's just trying random things, I honestly think that by the time that you graduate, I definitely felt like I'm just ready to go. Like, I just want to get out there, start applying for things. I have like 5 ideas lined up that I want to start working on. I suppose then the next sort of thing that you encounter is like, okay, how do I actually put this on and stage it? How do I apply for a festival? How do I apply for funding? Yeah, I think the transition to more of the admin stuff is more difficult than like any kind of artistic transition.
And how have you found applying for funding and bursaries and things like that?
I don't like writing applications, but I think that I think that I have an ability to write them pretty well. Like, I've been rejected from like plenty of things, but I just feel like that is a skill that I have where I know how to make things sound good and I know how to make things sound attractive. I honestly think I don't know really what it comes from. Maybe it's just bullshitting. Maybe it's just if you're like good at dressing something up. I don't know. It's almost like learning lines where it's something that some people find easy and some people don't. Like I say, like I don't find it easy. I'm not being like, oh my God, I just breezed through that Dublin Fringe application. No bother. I'm still there like, I hate this. I just want to do a show. But I think I'm able to sort of lock in and yeah, dress things up. Not saying that I've got like 100% success rate, not even close. Especially working with other people and filling out applications with other people. I feel like I've definitely gotten people saying to me, whoa, you're so good at like making this idea sound very professional and big and real when it's just us in a kitchen.
Where did your interest in clowning come from? Because you've used that a little bit in your works and it's something you've talked about. Where did that come from? Was it something you picked up in your training or did it come from an outside source?
Yeah, so the training was my first introduction of it. Raymond Keane is a clown teacher and theatre maker, and he does workshops. I think at the Gaiety and the Lear. Me and Maria were both doing those workshops. That was our first introduction to them. We did it 2 years in a row. This week-long workshop. I definitely had this real fascination with it. And it almost felt like a puzzle to kind of work out. It was so different from anything else that we were doing. It because you can't like really think your way out of doing a good job at clowning, which I think that provides an interesting challenge for people like me who tend to like go very cerebral and very heady with performing or writing. But it was actually just when I was like a few months out of college, I ended up seeing this film at the Galway Film Festival called Apocalypse Clown. It was starring this actor, Natalie Palomides. I just like thought she was so great in the movie and I really wanted to know more about her. So I looked her up and I saw that she had a clowning special on Netflix, like an hour long clown show. I watched it. That was it for me. Like, I was totally in on clowning after that. And the show is like so incredible. I even with like having done the workshops at college, I didn't know that it could be like really used in this way and applied in this way, and that you could make a whole show about consent using clowning. I just never seen anything like it, and it totally set me down this path of then going over and doing a workshop in the UK and really seeking it out more and more and incorporating it more and more into my work. I think Maria also had a similar journey. We both kind of got into it at the same time, and once Maria invited me to work on Porno, I think we both knew like this is our chance. Like, we have been like observers of this art form for a really long time, and we're finally gonna try and put it into practice and put some of our own clowning out into the world. The sort of setup of Porno is that it's two of Ireland's most famous live sex stars who tour around the country with their sex show. They have been popular since the 90s. They're really famous. It's the setup is it's the last night of their nationwide sex tour, but something goes horribly wrong. They have this sexident, where they forget how to have sex. The audience, which is full of their fans of 20 years, they need them to teach them how to have sex again so that they can do the show and they can finish it. There's like a couple like basic principles of clowning that are pretty key to Porno and to clown shows in general. There's no fourth wall at all. You're never acting. You're always looking directly in people's eyes. You're always trying to sense people's reactions. If you're talking to people, you're getting suggestions. The audience interaction sort of element of it is really about uplifting the audience. It's very different from like stand up. It was kind of a rule that we made with ourselves for Porno, because we knew we'd be going up to people and being like, okay, how do you have sex? What's step one of sex? That was sort of how we structured it. And we just made this rule where we were like, whatever people say, these clowns, these characters have to be excited about it. Whatever is said. We've had some like crazy suggestions in our time of testing it out and practicing it. I think that rule really helped us to be like, okay, these two people, they're just thrilled to be here. They just want the audience to help them, and they don't know what's a good suggestion or a bad suggestion. They are like trusting. That's another like a big thing in clowning as well, is the clowns embodying, there's no cynicism in it. They're just so excited to be on stage and to be sharing time with all of these people.
How do you deal with an audience, but some members don't want that, or they don't give you maybe what you're looking for, or react the way you're hoping them to react?
Yeah, it was something we talked about so much, like during the rehearsals for Porno. It's something that like I'm such an audience interaction snob. I really get critical when I see people doing it in a way that I don't think is up to my standards, I guess, where I just really feel like if you're asking someone to say something, to be part of the show, then you're asking them to take a risk and put themselves out there, which they haven't. They're not a performer necessarily. They haven't agreed to do a show at Seen and Heard. So I really think it's about an exchange. If you are asking an audience member to put themselves out there, then you have to also take that risk with them. So whatever suggestion that they gave us, we were like, okay, we're asking them to take a risk of saying something in front of a group of people, and we're going to take this risk of trying to interpret whatever they say and try and make it funny. But in terms of people giving answers that were tricky to work with, that was trial and error. We did there's a really great cabaret show called Cabaret that is on every few months. We tested out that format of asking people how to have sex at Cabaret. We hadn't had any like idea how it would work before then. We were like, let's just go out and see what happens. We got some really great suggestions. It was really funny watching what different audience members would say. Someone was like, oh, have a deep, meaningful conversation. People would say kiss and all these sort of things that you might expect to come up. And they were really great. But then we did talk to this guy at Cabaret, what's step 3 of sex? How do we have sex? And he was like, I'm a virgin. And we were like, oh, okay. That was, I think that was our first experience of being like a real like block. That guy didn't want to be part of the show. That was a real moment for us. Someone saying something like that of, I'm a virgin, I don't know how to have sex. That's them being like, I'm not comfortable being involved in this. Then that became a conversation of how do we respect that and still keep the momentum going and keep everyone else laughing and not be like, oh, come on, like join in, you're not cooperating or whatever. So we ended up developing this thing which we didn't get to use in Seen and Heard, but we developed the Virgin Alert. And we were going to say, if we came across anyone else who was like, I don't know how to have sex, or I'm a virgin, I don't know, I can't help you guys, we would have this like big siren that starts blaring going, virgin, virgin, have this sort of thing of like, oh, these sex stars, they normally love when virgins come to the show because that's really exciting, but they don't have anything to show them this time. And we would be like, oh, we'll apologize to them, and we'll be like, we wish we could do more for you. And so that evolved. We didn't get to use it because no one said they were a virgin, but I think having that there as a sort of safety net, if someone just fully doesn't want to engage, we have this tool that will completely absolve them, like, okay, like totally fine, you don't have to be any more involved than you want to be, but also how can we turn that into a joke and into something that will make people keep having a good time and not have the audience be like, that guy's not doing what they want him to do, now I feel bad for the performers. You don't want the audience to feel that at any point. You want them to be like, no, these guys are in control, they have a solution for everything. That was how we navigated the potential of people not wanting to get involved with the show.
What was the response from Porno after? Did people like it? Did people enjoy getting involved?
We were really like overwhelmed with people's responses. A lot of the people in the audience were people who knew me and Maria, who had seen us do comedy, who, were friends with us. They wanted to support us, or they were just genuinely interested to see what we would come up with together. So I think a lot of people had this sense of what the show would be, and I think we really like met those expectations. But what was really interesting was seeing, because obviously Seen and Heard, 2 shows are paired together, and the show that we were paired with, it was called Should I Cancel My Grandfather? And it was a very different style of show. It was much more intimate. The people who had come to see that show, hearing their responses was really interesting because some of them were like totally baffled, some of them loved it, and that's like a real compliment if someone goes in completely blind to your show and ends up really enjoying it. It gives you a real boost. But one of the funniest things that we ended up hearing was that someone had come along to see the other show, and had brought their like 78-year-old stepmother with them. We ended up getting an email from her afterwards being like, loved the show, and my 78-year-old stepmother couldn't stop laughing the whole time. I think that was a real thing of like, we ideally want this show to like help people speak about sex and not be shameful and repressed about it. Maybe it's my generalization of being like, oh, no one, like older people would hate this show because it's about sex and it's crazy. And then just to have that be like, no, an older person loved it. And to have that like potentially open my mind up even more to be like, this show could be for everyone. It doesn't just have to be for like comedians in their 20s or something.
Exactly, because there's no point saying sex is only for young people. Everyone has sex.
Yeah.
So to be able to take something that is almost taboo and make like that a 78-year-old laugh, I think that's brilliant, because it's not that long ago when sex was, and it still is, a bit taboo to talk about, and who you talk about it with. And I think as well, Ireland is always a few years behind the rest of the world. So I think it's great that shows like this are being made and opening that floor and being like, yeah, let's talk about sex. And now I have that song stuck in my head now.
Yeah. For Maria, definitely a big part, like the origins of porno came a lot from the Irish sexual education system, and having gone through that not that long ago. We didn't go through it decades ago, we went through it like 10, 15 years ago, that was pretty bad. I'm not sure it's gotten that much better. I'm sure things have improved a bit. It probably depends a lot where you are in the country or what kind of school you're in. But that really came up a lot during this thing that we wanted to do of asking an audience, how do you have sex? Then that evolved into like, we're going to start with, okay, how do you have step one? What's step one of sex? And that became our structure. And that opened up a really interesting thing of we're doing it in this comedic way of we've forgotten how to have sex, but then we're asking this audience, and we're like, what's step one? The answers to that are so interesting, because for some people it starts with foreplay and it starts with a kiss, or it starts with touch. And then for some people that's like the actual like act of sex, like that's step one. It was just so interesting to be like, everyone's got a different idea. Some things that people would say would be like, oh my god, I never even would have thought of being like, yeah, that's step one or something. It was really, really interesting actually. Both nights of our Seen and Heard show, we would open it up to the floor. How do you have sex? What's the first step? And both nights, the first thing shouted out from the audience was get consent. Consent had come up like other times that we done the show, but for that to be like the first suggestion both nights, we were like, whoa, that's really, really interesting. It's not like, oh, that's the right answer. It's not right or wrong. It was just an interesting sort of coincidence.
No, that is very interesting. I think it's a really fun and interesting way of opening up such a taboo conversation. Even like that, just opening the floor up as part of your show, and very brave of yourselves, because you don't know what they're going to say. They could say anything. And like that, you had the rule of, we have to be excited about it. They could tell us to eat a sandwich and we have to be excited about it.
Yeah. Part of how we rehearsed that section is we would get a friend to come into the rehearsal room, or we would get someone on the phone just to be like, okay, you be like all the different audience members and we're going to talk to you. And we were on the phone with Maria's sister, and one of the things she said was like, oh, how do you have sex? She was like, oh, get drunk. Because we were like, be like different audience members, be like someone who's really shy and be someone who's really crazy or whatever. So anyway, she said this thing, get drunk. And we were kind of like, then thinking like, okay, what will we do then? Okay, maybe we'll go into the audience, we'll take someone's drink and we'll drink it. Maybe we'll go out to the bar in Smack Alley. It was so good that we got to test that out, because you just have no idea what anyone's going to say. Someone could say something like totally crazy and off the wall that you've never thought of before. And the more that we did it and rehearsed it, the more because that was definitely like the most nerve-wracking part of the show. We do this whole intro before we go into the audience interaction. And it just completely terrified me of being like, what if they suggest something and we just can't think of anything? What if we're just standing there? But the more we did it and practiced it, I think we really began to like have this confidence of like, we will think of something. Maybe it won't be like the funniest thing in the world, but I think that is the joy of audience interaction in clowning. And even within stand-up or whatever, the jokes or the interaction doesn't have to be the funniest, most comedically intricate thing in the world. The audience just gets such a joy from watching something that they know is unplanned and unscripted, and watching you as a performer figure it out in real time. That's what I love about audience interaction, like watching it. So it's like, it doesn't have to be like rocket science. The audience is, if they're like with you and they believe in you, they want you to do well, and they want to just have a good time, then they're gonna support. I think it's a nice back and forth. It's like, okay, we're all gonna do this thing. Kind of weird. It's not like a normal comedy show. It's not like a play, but let's all just trust each other and we're gonna be fine.
Was there anything that came up in the show that you were not prepared for? Or was there anything that came up and both of you interpreted it differently? And how does that get resolved if that happens?
Well, something interesting that came up, that was like totally one of those things that will always happen with every show, is in being in tech and being in the theater, finding that one thing that you're like, I've never thought of that, and that is gonna throw such a wrench into what we have planned. For us, I think that thing was because we're these sex stars, the audience is full of our fans. We do this thing of we reach out and we talk to our fans. So we pick an audience member and we'll be like, oh, Daniel, he's been coming to the show for 20 years. You're our biggest fan. Breda, she bought us our first dildo. Breda, thanks for driving up from Cork. We just have to assign them a name and give them a sort of identity as our fans. But what we found with the teching and with doing the show was that one of us would pick someone in the audience to be our fan, to be this character, and be like, oh, Daniel, like, thanks for coming out. Like, Maria would have no idea who I've selected. All she can kind of see is the general direction that I'm looking in. Now I have to reach out. I'm going to try and talk to this person. We're just guessing who. It was so close to the show when we sort of realized that that was a big thing. We didn't really end up workshopping a real solution to it. We ended up just kind of embracing the problem and just doing that in the kind of way of I would reach out to someone and start speaking to them. And then Maria would be like, oh yeah, Daniel, I think you're Daniel. It could be the guy next to you. We turn that into a moment of acknowledging that with the audience, of being like, we're probably not going to talk to the same people all the time, but it's okay. It's not a big deal. It's not going to ruin the show if I am talking to one guy, calling him Daniel, and then Maria's got a different Daniel, and there's two Daniels. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. So yeah, that was something we definitely had to sort of figure out in real time while doing the show.
When you were picking audience members, did you have any rules around that?
No, we really went all over the place. I think we didn't really go for the back row, maybe just because it was a little harder to see with the lights. We kind of went for the middle a lot. We didn't have like really any rules. It was something that happened. Something we talked about a lot was actually going for people that we know versus people we don't know. Was that something we wanted to do? I get a little bit in my head because I can't. You can't always see people's faces straight away. So I had this real thing in my head of like, if I reach out to someone and then I'm like, oh, that's my neighbor. Oh no. But we just had to like really let go of that and just be like, if my neighbor's there, then it's because he wants to see the show. It's going to be fine. We did end up having this really funny moment. We pick out an audience member. Oh, Breda, she gave us our first dildo. We still have it. Breda, we've forgotten how to have sex. You might as well take it back. Maria goes and gets this clay dildo that she made and is like, okay, pass it back to Breda. And Maria ended up selecting a close family friend of her parents as Breda in one of the shows. And had to go and hand her a clay dildo. Things like that do happen, but what can you do? It's a funny story anyway.
Between that, handing a family member a clay dildo, finding out that there is a 78-year-old woman in the audience who could not stop laughing is just brilliant. Is there anything you feel that the government could do better or more of to help support artists?
For me, as someone who really did not get to fully get into the artistic stuff I wanted to get into while I was in school, I really think that those resources being available in secondary schools and primary schools could make such a difference to kids and teenagers. I feel like me, who went through school thinking that I wasn't smart or I just wasn't good at anything, I think that really affected me a lot at that age and really affected my self-esteem because there was nothing there that was my thing. Looking back on that, if I had the ability to like take drama as a leaving cert subject, what that would have done for me and my confidence when I was that age. Okay, maybe I'm not good at maths or Irish, but I've got something that I'm good at in school. I think that could have really helped me. Because I really didn't start to get that confidence in myself and my like abilities and what I had to offer to the world until I was older, until I was out of school. And I think especially in schools that are, you know, in areas that don't have as much money. And like I went to a private school and I still didn't have that. I feel like in schools that are more crowded and have less like money pumped into them, I'm sure there's even less. So there's kids who probably needed it a lot more than me and still do. yeah, I really feel like getting that availability of the arts in schools, I think that would change things for a lot of kids.
I think that's a very good point, because even my own experience, it's very common for artists to have some kind of learning disability. I'm dyslexic and Neve is dyslexic dyspraxic. Depending on when you find out, that can make your experience in school much difficult. It would make sense that if you're struggling in school, that maybe you would fall into sports or arts, dancing and acting, maybe playing a musical instrument. Sports seems to be something that is available. They seem to be more widely available than something like dance. I know dance and drama is coming in as a leaving cert subject, and hopefully it can become available in every school. I think that's brilliant. But it's such a true point. If you haven't got those subjects available and they are your strong point, and maths, Irish, English isn't, you can sit in school and feel really stupid when you're not. Your gifts and talents are just in a different area, which just at the moment isn't catered for, which is really unfortunate.
It is great that like those subjects are coming in. I hope that like they get like rolled out to all schools. They're able to offer them in small like local schools with 20 students. You know, I just hope that everyone can have access to it. And you know, as nice as it is, my heart just does break for my younger self. I'm like 5 years out of school. Oh, it's just like 5 years too late for me and my younger self. But I'm so glad that the ball is getting rolling on that.
And hopefully it keeps rolling and it can be available. It would be brilliant. I'm the same. To my younger self, I wish it was available. It would have been just amazing. But thank you so much, Saorla, for coming on tonight and having the chats with us. It's been amazing chatting to you, learning about your story, your inspiration and your shows. I think we'll be seeing a lot more works from you. I hope Porno comes back, because I didn't get to see it and I'm very disappointed I didn't get to, and I would really like to see it in the future.